Saya Hanifah.
Adit Ibnu Yasa, Ki Maulana Putra,
Vincentius Angga,
Rangga Nugraha.
Saya Yaya Aulia.
Perkenalkan, nama saya Randi.
Dari Twitter.
Awalnya sih emang follow CEO Pacman AI Mas Adit ya.
Dari rekan kerja.
Yang pertama mungkin kurikulumnya ya Mbak. Jadi karena ada learning path yang jelas dan saya bisa ngikutin. Terus yang kedua ya harganya Mbak lumayan terjangkau.
Karena pengalaman di kelas pertama itu yang diajarin itu sangat dalam gitu. Udah sempat beberapa kali ikut tempat lain gitu ya, tapi tidak sedalam yang diajarkan di Pacman gitu.
Pacman tuh lebih interaktif.
Mas Cahyo kan dia pembawaannya suka senyum-senyum sendiri kan, jadi kan kayak suka aneh aja sih, lucu aja jadinya gitu.
Meskipun saya mengerjakan dua hal dalam satu waktu, ya alhamdulillah saya bisa mengerti apa yang disampaikan oleh Mas Cahya gitu.
Misalnya saya melihat orang-orang yang tertarik ke arah machine learning, saya sangat merekomendasikan.
Kalau untuk circle yang sekarang, saya akan rekomendasiin banget sih Mbak. Soalnya kan saya dekat banget dengan pengambilan keputusan gitu dan perlu baca data dan harus mengerti data itu maksudnya kayak gimana.
Kalau saya sih sangat merekomendasikan dan sebenarnya udah sering narik teman-teman gitu, ayo ikutin gitu. Ada satu teman yang akhirnya ikut juga kelas Pacman kemarin nyobain data rounding dan feedbacknya juga bagus gitu.
Menarik,
komprehensif mungkin Mbak. Keren ini.
Modelnya
Profesional.
Encourage ya.
Berpengalaman.
Thank you, Pacman.
Bye.
Saat melihat harganya di Pacman itu bisa dibilang nggak masuk akal sih. Kalau pekerjaan saat ini saya bekerja sebagai data scientist di salah satu digital agency. Problem yang saya miliki itu sebenarnya saya kan sudah bekerja sebagai data scientist, tapi memang masih merasa bahwa dunia data scientist ini masihlah sangat luas, terutama di bagian statistik. Jadi saya penasaran gimana sih cara bekerjanya si machine learning itu. Nah, hal itu setahu saya dijawab dengan statistik. Jadi saya mencari kursus yang lebih berfokus ke statistiknya. Nah, dan di Pacman itu memberikan jawaban untuk pertanyaan saya tersebut atau untuk kebutuhan saya tersebut. Kenapa saya pada akhirnya memutuskan untuk ikut di Pacman adalah yang pertama, saya melihat silabus yang dimiliki oleh Pacman. Silabus yang dimiliki oleh Pacman itu berbeda sama silabus-silabus yang lain. Karena di Pacman itu, dia itu jangka waktunya itu termasuk sangat lama. Dan saya itu kagetnya adalah karena harganya itu beda sama kursus-kursus yang lain. Kalau di Pacman ini harganya murah dan silabus atau materi yang diberikan itu sangatlah mendalam. Nah, karena itu saya tidak ragu untuk memutuskan untuk memilih Pacman. Pacman materinya mendalam sih, sama pengajar itu memang berpengalaman di bidangnya. Jadi Pacman itu saat ini membantu saya untuk mencapai goal saya ke depannya. Nah, biasanya kursus lain itu hanya mengajarkan dasar-dasar saja. Sedangkan di Pacman itu lebih mendalam. Nah, oleh karena itu saya merasa kedepannya khusus di Pacman ini akan sangat membantu saya. Dan di sini tuh benar-benar worth it sih kalau dibandingkan harga dan juga kualitas yang ada. Kayak gitu. Jadi gua tunggu lo di sini.
Jadi 2 kali pun harga Pacman dinaikin, menurut saya itu jelas sangat masih worth banget. Dan saya dari jurusan ilmu ekonomi, and so far udah 7 tahun, jalan 7 tahun bekerja di kementerian. Karena merasa pengen ngembangin kapasitas diri. Kemudian mempertimbangkan background, terus ketertarikan saya dengan ekonomi, dan yang berhubungan dengan data. Akhirnya saya menemukan ternyata, data science ini menarik untuk dipelajari lebih jauh. Yang ada di Pacman itu adalah kurikulum yang didesain khusus untuk menggabungkan semua materi yang diperlukan seseorang yang mau jadi data scientist beneran. Jadi materinya itu komprehensif ya, dari yang paling dasar, ada programming Python dan kalkulus, sampai nantinya ke machine learning sendiri gitu. Menurut saya masih worth it. Karena kualitas Pacman itu jelas banget seriusnya, jelas banget perhatiannya sama murid. Jadi investasi yang kita gunakan untuk belajar di Pacman itu akan balik modal dengan cepat ketika nanti kita udah masuk ke dunia kerja, jadi data scientist, dan ya as kita semua tahu data scientist itu berpenghasilan yang sangat cukup untuk bisa menutupi modal kita yang di awal ini. Jadi 2 kali pun harga Pacman dinaikin, menurut saya itu jelas sangat masih worth banget. Well, to all my friend ataupun orang-orang di luar sana, khususnya orang-orang yang saya kenal. Kalau as you know, saya nggak akan mempromosikan sesuatu kalau saya nggak menyukai hal tersebut. So look at me, I'm the living proof of bagaimana Pacman baik mendidik murid-muridnya, dan saya bisa bilang bahwa if you want to be a real data scientist, this is where you start and you won't regret joining Pacman.
All right, so good evening, everybody, and good evening, Tony. All right, so thank you all for coming here tonight, this evening. So today's webinar will be conducted in English because we have Tony here. He is a data scientist, an expert in artificial intelligence and machine learning. He resides in Australia right now. So, and he's more comfortable, Tony is more comfortable speaking in English, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So we're gonna have a little chat here about GPT-3, as you all know, maybe from the form. And yes, but before we start talking about GPT-3, is that okay if I tell our friends here about some info about Pacman, and maybe it will be in bahasa Indonesia first. Is that okay?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Alright then. Oke, jadi teman-teman semua di sini makasih banyak nih udah datang. Walaupun hari Jumat ya, udah weekend nih. Tapi sekarang pada datang semuanya ke sini, makasih banget. Nah, sebelum kita mulai nih ngobrol-ngobrolnya, di sini ada Tony ya. Di sini kita panggil Tony. Tony Liu ini adalah seorang data scientist expert di artificial intelligence dan machine learning yang sekarang ada di Australia, dan kebetulan memang lebih nyaman ngomong pakai bahasa Inggris gitu ya. Jadi kita akan ngobrol pakai bahasa Inggris. Nah, tapi sebelumnya kita mungkin kenalan dulu ya sama Pacman. Mungkin di sini ada teman-teman yang belum familiar nih, Pacman itu siapa sih gitu kan. Nah, aku ada sedikit info dulu. Jadi Pacman itu adalah startup research yang berfokus di machine learning dan juga data science gitu. Sorry, di sini nggak ada Pacman. Nah, jadi Pacman ini kami sudah menyediakan service-service baik di consulting dan juga di pendidikan data science gitu. Nah, saat ini yang sedang berjalan adalah non-degree program. Non-degree program ini ada 2 jalur. Yang pertama Business Intelligence dan Data Science. Tapi kebetulan banget nih, kemarin pendaftarannya baru ditutup. Akan dibuka lagi nanti akan diumumkan ya di sosial media. Jadi terus follow sosial medianya Pacman. Nah, di sini untuk persiapan karir jadi Business Intelligence dan Data Science. Nah, untuk dari saya sendiri, kalau Business Intelligence ada 8 bulan program, untuk Data Science itu ada 14 bulan program. Nah, nanti kelasnya sendiri akan diadakan di weekend. Jadi teman-teman yang mungkin lagi kuliah, misalnya lagi bekerja, nggak perlu khawatir bentrok karena live sessionnya itu ada di weekend gitu. Sementara di weekdays itu akan ada tugas hands-on gitu. Jadi teman-teman akan mempraktikkan apa yang dipelajari di saat weekend gitu. Nah, untuk kurikulumnya sendiri ini singkat aja ya. Mungkin kalau ingin lebih detail lagi, teman-teman nanti bisa menghubungi Pacman. Di sini ada kurikulum Business Intelligence, mulai dari yang mendasar Business Intelligence, lalu Python, dan hingga akhirnya ada Project Lab. Di sini teman-teman akan mengerjakan project yang setara dengan industri. Nah, di Data Scientist ini tentunya lebih banyak ya, karena durasinya sendiri 14 bulan. Tapi sama, kita mulai dari dasar banget. Jadi teman-teman yang sama sekali nggak punya latar belakang matematika atau misalnya programming gitu nggak perlu takut karena kita ngajarin dari awal banget nih dari basic Python programming, dari kalkulus bahkan gitu. Jadi teman-teman nggak perlu khawatir takut nggak bisa ngikutin karena banyak juga siswa kami yang memang backgroundnya sama sekali bukan dari teknik atau programming atau matematika gitu. Nah, terus di sini ada jadwal pelaksanaannya. Nah, ini kebetulan emang baru tutup pendaftaran tadi seperti yang udah aku ceritain ya. Tapi untuk pembukaannya lagi, teman-teman bisa langsung ikutin aja sosial medianya Pacman gitu. Nah, untuk info lebih lanjut nih teman-teman bisa kontak kami di bit.ly/wslwebinar atau untuk brosur lengkapnya di sini bit.ly/brosur Pacman.ai, dan kalau misalnya ingin tahu testimoni dari peserta kami sebelumnya, teman-teman bisa lihat di bit.ly/testimoni non-degree Pacman. Nanti akan dikasih juga linknya di sini. Okay, so let's start our talk today. Untuk teman-teman semua, kalau ada pertanyaan boleh langsung ditulis di kolom chat, atau untuk teman-teman yang gabung di live YouTube, boleh juga langsung ditulis di live chat, nanti akan dibacakan di Q&A session. Okay, alright, so are you ready, Tony? Let's just begin our talk this evening.
Sure.
Yeah. So Tony Liu, Tony here is a data analytics advisor at Timcado, and this is Tony's email. If any of you want to, maybe after this webinar, after this talk, want to discuss further about our talk today or about machine learning in general. So Tony Liu is graduated from Monash University with a PhD in artificial intelligence, and you've been you conducted some researches there, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
So the next slide will explain what it is, but today is not about my research. Maybe just one slide.
Yeah. All right. So for Tony's experience, he was a data analytics director in Sinarmas Mining. It's in Jakarta, right? Am I right? And AIPG, it's Australia Indonesia
Partnership of Economic Governance.
Yeah.
So it's an aid program, and at that time I advised the Indonesian tax office in terms of how they can make use of the data. And that's the main jobs at that time. Yeah.
I see. So Tony here has worked. Has worked with Indonesian people for years. So now maybe we will introduce here about, we will introduce about your research, your most famous research. Maybe some of you here who has been working, who works in machine learning or data science field, familiar with this isolation forest method algorithm, right? So this is a famous algorithm in machine learning. It's a super fast anomaly detection algorithm. There's even a library in scikit-learn, right? And also AWS and any other places. So maybe Tony, can you tell us a bit about?
So I was actually studying random forest at that time, and find an interesting observations and phenomena, and then later on turn it into detecting abnormally unusual record. They might be like a spike or like a particular low value in your data set. But those are maybe representing fraud or someone try to hack into your system or unusual persons in a group. So this method is widely used because I think it is one of the methods that changed the paradigm, how people think. Before that, people would not use the what we call path lane in the decision trees for any analysis, but this is changing the paradigm. So people are now using the path lane. So if you're interested, I can talk to you in details later on after the chat, or send me an email. Happy to chat more about that one. Yeah.
All right. So for you who is interested in this, you can email Tony in the email address I've given you. Okay. So now maybe we start from the very beginning. Maybe some of our guests here don't know about machine learning much. So so how far has machine learning technology come? Like everybody is talking about that, but how far has it come?
So if you go to the next slide, let me just start by an interesting introduction or the way you think about it. Now we actually have talking mirror, magical map, and an animated newspaper, and it all become reality. You just pull out your phone, and those are powered by AI. So how far have we come? So in the past, we can only dream about this sort of technology. Now we actually hold it in our hand and use it. So this is how far I think we have gone through. Next slide, please. So I tend to think about the AI revolution as into 5 phases. So if you're familiar with the development, so I actually started in about the 1990 something, learning about leaps and prologue for people who understand functional programming. So at that time, we do I imitate stage, step 2. So we use program to imitate the logic of experts. So we have this term called expert system. And then we move on to stage 3, which is I learn. So the machine can learn from data. And some example can be like ID3, C4.5, CAT, random forest, that kind of model. And then we then move to deep learning. So before we have the name deep learning, we actually call it a neural network. But at that time, the computational power is not strong enough to make a neural network with multi-layers. So it wasn't very useful. It was useful when we have GPU, and this slide predict that the next phase is going to be the machine learning can contribute. We're looking forward to this phase. We're seeing some of this. So I would say GPT-3 is the beginning of step 5.
I see. So machine learning is starting to contribute.
So hopefully by the end of this talk, we can see how much GPT-3 can contribute. I say it's a beginning of phase or step 5, and we can kind of look at it from different dimensions and things like that.
Okay, so yeah, we're gonna talk about the beginning of the next phase.
Next slide. This is what I added. So I want to paint a picture, like we have a gap to fill. So if you look at the diagram, so we have some high level intelligence. So can you book me a flight to Bali this week? And then we have some low level instructions, like if you're familiar, if you work in the API industry, you know that there's all sorts of different API for banking, for travel, for e-commerce, and they're very precise, and you have to describe what you wanted. And we're missing what I call the AI middleman. So that can translate high-level instructions to low-level instructions and to get things done. So this is largely missing, and this probably would describe a lot of the programmers' work. So to get the high-level instructions and convert it to low-level, so to get things done. So if AI can do that, a lot of people ask me before, will AI take over your work? I'll elaborate a bit more. It can, but you also people also change when technology comes through. So we'll look into that. Okay.
But haven't we already have something like this? Maybe like Siri or Google Assistant? They are middleman, right?
Yeah. But we're talking about another level of so for Siri's and Google Assistant, for anything scripted, then you'll get things done. So you usually will face this problem like I'm not quite sure. The robot will reply, I'm not quite sure what you mean. Can you rephrase it? Which means that it hasn't got this functionality scripted. So we talk about the next level that without training, without learning about this specific task, it can actually write the middle level instructions by itself.
Okay. All right. So maybe like Siri or Google Assistant is like the beginning of this AI middleman.
Yeah.
You
can put it this way.
Okay, I can put it. All right then. Okay, maybe like you mentioned about GPT-3, but what is actually GPT-3?
First of all, it's not a new technology. So it actually trained. Why is it so famous? Because it's trained with 175 billion parameters. You can think about in a sentences. You have different words. Each word represents one token, or each word may represent 3 tokens. Some of the words are complicated. So each token is a parameters. And this is so far the biggest one. And the next slide will, please. Yeah, so what it is a few short learners. So what the AI professional want to solve is a problem, like how do I reduce the training requirements of new NLP, natural language processing tasks? So what they come up with, or what the previous attempt tried to solve, is to train an NLP model with a large corpus. So in this case, they're using a data set from the commoncrawl.org. And then they provide 1 or 2 examples for the particular NLP task that they wanted to perform. And then the pre-trained model will now tune to the NLP task and be able to perform it. So the whole idea about GPT model in general is to reduce the training requirements and get a model to take on new tasks as soon and as well as possible. So then the size of the GPT model is then related to how knowledgeable or how well it can take on new tasks.
Okay.
So why size is important is because it related to how well it can take on new tasks.
Okay, so GPT-3 is a machine learning model who has been pre-trained and ready for new tasks other than the previous task. I see.
That's right. That's right.
All right. So yeah,
It's like,
give us more detail.
so this is a formal definitions of what is GPT-3. So it's a autoregressive model that uses deep learning. So the keyword here is the autoregressive model. And it is a model that represents the type of random process that is happening within our society or within a process within nature and economics. So in this case, we try to model a sentence or an article. What is the next word? What is the probability of the next word like appear? Say when you're writing an email, if you have auto completion, it will try to prompt you and say, can I get a booking of? Then it will try to prompt you like, is it a hotel? Is it a flight? Is it a car? And it's kind of try to learn this kind of random process. So it could be anything. Yeah. So then that gives you a definition. So GPT-3 is a predictor of the next word. Yeah.
Okay.
In simplest term.
In simplest term is the predictor of the next word. If we give them an input text. Okay, maybe for more detail, let's see what Can GPT-3 can do to give you our friends here more idea.
So this page is actually coming from the OpenAI GPT-3 API page. I got lucky enough to get into the beta program. I think now is in closed beta. So if you have interest, you can give it a try, like maybe register with your company and with your company email, and you have to give a convincing case why you want to get access to it. I think they want to make sure the API is useful, is not making mistake before they release it. So what can GPT-3 do? So classic one is classification. So you can get it to label the sentiments of a certain text. You can get it to categorize what the company do. Say there's an example like Apple is hardware and software, and Amazon is e-commerce and things like that. So, and you can also get it to label the different part of speech. So you have nouns and pronouns and verb and things like that. Idea generator, you give it an example of an idea, startup idea. It will try to generate different idea, maybe selling ice cream in the middle of Jakarta. That would be a good idea and things like that. And conversational kind of a Q&A agent. So you give it a questions, it will try to answer it from its knowledge base. And you can also manipulate its character. So you can give it like a character, like in this case, you got sarcastic chatbot. It try to say, no, I don't want to answer your question, but if you really ask, this is your question. This is the answer, and things like that. So, and transformation, it can take a long piece of article and summarize into simple text, translate from one language to the other one, and from some keyword to emoji, and it can also write coding. Like in this case, the example is React coding, and we'll get to some of that, and it's interesting. And also factual response. You can ask, about movie, about like movie star, and say like particular ports in the city or capitals in the city. It will try to answer that and things like that.
So GPT-3 sounds really, really smart. It's like next level Google.
It's quite amazing how it can perform things that it is never particularly trained for. And it's able to give you some mostly correct. I would say mostly correct answer.
Correct. Okay.
Mostly correct answer.
So how are our jobs in danger by the present.
Yeah. Well, you can imagine what I mean. Some of the simple tasks will be in danger. We can talk about it. I actually have a slide for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is the top use cases of GPT-3.
Yeah,
So
and the source actually link is provided underneath. It is not exhaustive. I mean, I picked a few different articles and find this probably the longest list, and I picked the two top use cases and to illustrate and talk about it. So first one is called Oracle. So you can ask the Oracle. Yeah. So what it is repeal IT. You describe it and it will it will actually code it for you. So it is programming in Python. So you give it a complicated code, it will try to explain to it. But I would say it's not actually implemented on their website. So this is still a premium features because each GPT-3 core actually costs money. Yeah. And I would say for simple syntax, it will be able to give you some explanation and improvement tips. But for complicated piece of code, I don't think it will help you at all. Yeah.
Maybe it needs to learn more. Yeah. And next top use case is design.
So this one, you can describe like the layout of your apps, and then it will do the coding for you, and then and these are the example I got it from that page.
So maybe web developers here need to be careful.
No, I still think they will have a job. They can use GPT-3 to speed up the task. I think that will be the likely scenario. But and maybe that's the reason to learn the AI with Pac-Man is because that's probably less likely to be obsolete for data scientists.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So if any of you is a web developer, maybe you want to learn AI with Pac-Man. All right. So so this.
Yeah. So this is my at-risk career list.
Yeah.
So programmer, watch out. I think a lot of you guys are programmer. Designer, and we'll get into other example that talk about designer at risk. Teacher. So you try to explain difficult topics to young student or student who want to learn complicated theory. You're at risk as well. Data scientist. I would say at the moment, GPT-3 is able to. The last example I see it can generate a new structure for keras, so a deep learner model. But how far can we push it? Writer, definitely. You give GPT-3 an idea, it will try to write out the whole article. We can see that. Philosopher, although GPT-3 speak nonsense, but so as a lot of philosopher. Yeah. Memes and animator, you are also at risk. Yeah. Voice actors. You find YouTubes about GPT-3 that can talk to one another, and resume writer. Yeah, I've seen a generator of resume using GPT-3 as well.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah, proofreader. Even PhD candidate. It was trying to write out. We try to get GPT-3 to write LaTeX. So if you're studying PhD in computer science, you probably have to use LaTeX to write your thesis. 3D scene artist and DevOps engineer. The list go on. I just find it interesting for all the use cases I try to map to one of the career. But I think it's like before that we have people selling soft drink. Now we have vending machine selling soft drink, and we need engineer to fix the vending machine. I think it's the same philosophy. So for people who want to develop a skills, maybe same analogy, be a soft drink vending machines engineer. Yeah. So that would be some career advice.
So no need to worry because human are adaptive, right? We can learn anything.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so from these careers, I think most of these careers are like related to writing, right? Like writers and maybe journalists.
Yeah.
So, well, next question is, with GPT-3, will news be generated automatically in the future?
Well, first of all, fake news is not, or generated news is not something that only happen because of GPT-3. We have about 5 years ago, we already have research on how to automatically generate research paper and get it accepted in some of the conferences in America. Of course, they are really poor conferences. They just there to make money of people publishing there.
Yeah.
But the fact that they got past the human and think that it's actually being generated is something.
Yeah,
now, for this question, I actually find an example. If you go to next slide. So this is a comparison between real news and GPT-3 news. So the top one is the same starting sentences. You see like Chinese search engine Sogu is creating artificial intelligence lookalike to read popular novel in author's voice. And then the article continued to talk about like it's getting the authors to read and also animated to read the newspaper, and also it's applied to the official government news agency. But then if you the same prompt when GPT-3 got it, it points to something that he probably read before. So something about reading novel, and it points to like Kindles and Android devices. But if you read in detail, it doesn't make sense. The article kind of, it doesn't gel together. Although each sentence is kind of sounds all right, but then it doesn't make sense. Yeah. So that's my kind of feedback on that one.
Let's find the weird sentence here. Yeah, maybe you guys can find a weird sentence in the second one, and maybe you can put it in the chat box. So yeah. So even though at first, at a glance, we think that this makes sense, but if we read it carefully, it doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense. Yeah.
Maybe even though in the future, maybe in the near future, journalists are still needed still.
Yeah, but you can actually give GPT-3 point forms and get it to elaborate a news, and it would do a pretty good jobs on it. So maybe the career of journalists is to utilize this sort of tools to speed up their work. So they might have 3 or 4 articles to write a day, and they gather the news, the facts, and then they put in point form. They go to GPT-3 and list out the point form. They might give an example of the style of article they want, and then the GPT will spill out an article according to its point form. So I think this is legitimate, is the right use of technology, and it helped the journalists to write a good article, and it's factual as well, because the point that is being given is factual.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe they don't need to write from scratch anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, we've seen that GPT-3 can be a code oracle, but can they actually generate codes? Because you told me that programmers are at risk.
So now this is a SQL generator, and there's a related news that came out quite recently. So Microsoft actually provided OpenAI 100 million funding. And if you're familiar with Power BI, there's a particular tab. It's called the Q&A. So with a given schema, you can actually ask, what is the, say, cells in the, say, East Java, and it will try to get the answer for you. These GPT-3 probably will enhance that functions further and also can do other things. So if you're a lay person, you don't know how to write SQL, these will be very useful, but probably only limited to simple SQL statements. Say, the first example asks, how many users sign up in this month, and then it would write correct syntax, and so on and so forth. I've read to the end of the article. When it gets complicated, it actually will give you wrong answer or something that is like unreasonable or doesn't make sense. Yeah. So it's able to do that, but there's a limit to how smart it is. And maybe we can read the conclusions. Now I've got GPT-3 instant to take plain English and translate into SQL that really work on my database. Always perfect. Still need some hand holding for the concept like growth rate or some, so these are difficult concepts like growth rate percentage. They're not common. And so I got to save little time when I have simple questions I need to ask about my database. And when I don't feel like writing SQL myself. Yeah, so, and maybe another thing is if you're not familiar with the syntax of SQL, you can just type it in and see what they give you. And then, but of course, the caveat is to check whether the answer is correct.
Yeah.
So that's the catch. Yeah, it may not give you the correct, and if it's too difficult, it might go wrong.
Well, we usually ask something like this in Google, right? When we're coding, maybe
like
beginner coding. But this shorten the path. We could just ask GPT-3 and it gives a specific answer. Yeah.
That's right.
So maybe we can see something.
Another example?
Yeah, an example.
Example. Can you click on the movie? Yeah. So this is another example that build React component.
Okay.
So I think it tried to describe, okay, this is the gist. So describe your app. And it say, put in the buttons, say add $3, and then put another buttons in to say withdraw $5 and show me my balance. And then it generate a React code. And then the website also run it. And now you've got buttons. And then the balance kind of correct. So probably GPT-3 have seen this example before. And if you want something quick and, I mean, it's nothing complicated. And probably if you learn the language, you can just code it in 5 minutes. But GPT-3 can do it on the fly. So I think this is the added benefit of using that. Yeah, if you need to write out an application on the fly.
Maybe it will help freshmen in computer science because this is like a test for their exam is something like this.
Yeah. And one thing will make, well, GPT-3 will make plagiarism very hard to detect because the student can put the answer, like they copy the answer from the friends and then just put it in GPT-3. Can you just rephrase it for me?
Something like
they won't be able to tell whether it's the real work or the French work.
Yeah, that's actually true. So, well, maybe lecturers, teachers, you should be more careful
Yeah, that's right.
in grading the exams. Okay, so,
Yeah.
okay. Um, all right, so next question is it possible to use GPT-3 for images and sound? Because we've been talking about text and codes, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what about
Yeah.
images and sounds?
Yeah. Yeah. So the answer is no, but there's a related kind of development. So this is OpenAI image GPT. So if you play the video, you will see how it works is you give it half the image, and then the image model will try to complete it, just like GPT-3 try to complete your sentence.
Okay, so that is possible. That I imagine that it's a heavy model, I think.
Yeah, it's possible, and so in the same concept, it have seen lots of different pictures on the internet. So if you give it a prompt, just like GPT-3, you have to prompt it before you get it to work. It will try to complete the pictures. And there are some other different developments. You can tunify your pictures. Say you put your face, the picture of your face into a model. It will try to make it look like Disney character. So that's one usage. You can scale between two faces, like your face and maybe a movie star. You make yourself look handsome or more beautiful. Yeah.
I see. That's interesting, and that sounds fun.
Yeah, it is interesting, and it is there's also if you see like YouTube news and it will imitate in both image and voice.
Like
we try to imitate both. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in terms of music, this is another development this is another development in the OpenAI. So the first 6 notes is given.
So the rest?
And it's from a well-known piece, and the model just continue to make up the notes as it go. You can further extend the music, and it will keep the same style from the previous pieces and continue the orchestrations.
Okay, so like from this part, maybe let's hear it once more. So this part is generated from by GPT-3.
Yeah, that part is in fact after the first 6 notes, they're all generated. Yeah.
Oh wow, that sounds legit. It sounds
it sounds legit. So we don't need what you call music writer. No, just kidding.
Well.
I think songwriter can use these sort of tools to get inspiration or to compose and maybe a faster way of creating new music pieces.
Yeah, and of course, if we generate music using this kind of tool, there's no meaning, no feeling inside the piece, right?
Yeah.
It will
or
feel different.
Yeah, there's a whole. I don't know music, but I think when they write music, it's like telling a story, and with GPT-3 not being able to tell, being able to rationalize, I think these sort of machine learning model need to be guided to be useful.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So this is interesting, right, guys? So maybe we are gonna go a little technical here. Maybe.
Yeah. So this is one of the technical questions that I try to avoid in this talk. So if you go down the hood, I think this is asked by an AI practitioner or researcher.
Yeah.
So what's the difference between GPT-3 and RNN? So GPT-3 is using a technology called transformer. And if you can, yeah. So instead of mapping the output in sequence of the input, it utilizes something called self-attentions. So that's the keyword. So if you want to drill further, I actually provided 2 slides in the next 2 slides for you to go and investigate further. So on the left is the RNN mechanism. So the green kind of dot is actually the input. So it goes in one by one. And then the middle box is the RNN. It will try to map the input to the outputs. On the right, you have the architecture of a transformer. So I would like you to focus on the multi-head attentions that on the left-hand side of that diagram. So the orange one, yeah. So that is the key mechanism. So everything is depending on these in a sentence. Each word actually relate to different word in the sentence differently. Say when we speak in English sentences, your article like it is eating something. So eating something all related to eat. So what it is, maybe it's a cat. So cat or dog or a human person or an object is related to eat. So that is the way, but the cat and the what it is eating is not really related. So they use this structure to enhance the performance of a language model. So I think in brief, this is my explanations. I don't want to go further than this one. Okay. Yeah, and the next slide, if you go to the next slide, there's a mathematical kind of explanations. I put in the link there, so if you want to drill into it, you can. And I probably it's too technical to illustrate, but in summary, transformer model or GPT model is different from RNN model in terms of using the self-attention mechanism. So that is the main key there.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, the self-attention mechanism is the main difference between RNN and wow. Okay, this is really technical. Okay, that's okay. So yeah, next question is, with so much data used for training, is GPT-3 really learning or just generalizing training data?
Yeah, so I actually reuse one of the slides. So I don't think it is learning. So unlike the early stage of AI, we not try to map the world into different objects and we not try to describe the world in terms of logic. So what it is the GPT-3 is learning the random process in our day-to-day life or in writing articles, in writing text. And I think this is what it is learning. So the different prompting, its point is getting the GPT-3 to look at one particular area that you try to look at. And then you then prep it for the task that you want to perform. So if you're looking for like a definitive answer, GPT-3 is mapping the random process in how we write or how we speak, and it's try to encapsulate that into its model. Yeah.
So it's not really both. It's not really learning.
It's not really learning. It doesn't know like you have a body and 2 arms and 2 legs. It probably regurgitated from somewhere else, but it doesn't know the concept of the real world.
Yeah. So yeah, not to worry, human. GPT-3 won't take over your ability in learning. All right. So
maybe not yet.
Maybe not yet. for now. All right. So before GPT-3, there was GPT-2 and other tools, right?
Yeah.
Other models you've shown us. So any drawbacks of
That's right.
GPT-3 compared to previous?
I didn't have a good answer for this one. I probably because I didn't bother, because there is a GPT-2 model you can download on GitHub. You can actually play with it. But probably the drawback I've seen is GPT-3, the comprehensive model called DaVinci. When you give it a prompt, you have to wait for 10 seconds for it to come back. I don't think this is the case for GPT-2. And maybe because GPT-3 is trained with a large data set, so its internal structure is probably huge. And it take a while to come back to you. Probably that is the only drawback. Now, related to this, there's another new technology called Linformer. If you are in tune with the developments of this path of AI, Facebook is coming up with a Linformer. So it's a linear efficiency transformer. So if you understand the performance efficiency, so transformer is still in the order of O(n) squared. So if the number of data increase, which is n, its performance is n squared.
Okay.
Now there was an attempt to move it down to O(n log n), and the latest one is actually O(n). So it's a linear performance transformer. So is suffering from that inefficiency. So as the number of parameters increase, its response is actually slow. So that's the only drawback I can.
The only drawback is
That's right. That's right.
Is that GPT-3 is slower than GPT-2.
That's right.
But I think that's expected, right?
Yeah, it's still within the acceptable range. Like if you're in the chat or if you're waiting for it, it's faster than a human. Yeah, you wait for a human to type the whole paragraph, it probably take more than 10 seconds. Yeah, but GPT-3 can actually reply within that time frame. Yeah, so it's still workable. But my take is that there probably will be a newer generation of GPT-3 that is using Linformer rather than the old transformer, and the performance will probably be faster. Yeah.
All right then. Okay, so next question is, since GPT-3 training data came from various sources, does it fit all industries, or do you need additional training data? Because you told us that GPT-3 is pre-trained, right?
That's right.
Like retrain it using data, specific data.
That's right. That's right. So this is kind of my take to the question. So I would say it is good for creative writing. So frictions. So for if you're writing a story, you can use GPT-3 to speed up the writing, and also for summarizations and for explanations. CodeGen, and you can either, I've seen cases where it use a decisions chatbot or decision gateway to go between a trained chatbot and GPT-3. So you can actually make your chatbot sound intelligent. So when the user is not in the area of scripted kind of like features, say maybe it's asking for weather, or maybe it's asking for movie, and your chatbot is helping them to just booking ticket, nothing else, but it's ask for who is the actors in that particular movie. It actually can fetch the right answer for you. Now, what I wouldn't use it for is medical service or investment advice. So for medical services, I've actually seen an example. So there's a pretend patient going to see a psychiatrist and ask, should I commit suicide, kill myself? And the GPT-3 say, go ahead. You should kill yourself.
That's dangerous. That's really dangerous.
Yeah, investment advice. I've tried to ask. I thought it can predict the future. It can't predict the future. It doesn't really understand the financial system. So I won't trust it with my money.
Yeah.
And I won't use it for scholarly writing. Or those you can probably make up an articles that will get you into publishing in some conferences, but I won't do that because it doesn't know how to rationalize. So it doesn't know how to bring an argument from evidence to conclusions. So it doesn't know how to do that.
Yeah. It only follow patterns, right?
Exactly. So we follow logics. We say for certain scientific discovery, there must be enough evidence, or that you have to be able to prove it mathematically. But GPT-3 unfortunately cannot do that. So I say these three industries are not really suitable for GPT-3: the medical, the investment, and scholarly. They probably will be more of different industry, but I would say these three are definitely no for
GPT-3 still hasn't threatened you, doctors or maybe financial advisors and all.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. So with all this, issues going on in the world, one of them being about racism. Well, GPT-3 generates writings, right? But can it learn nuance so it can filter racist sentences or something like that?
Yeah. So I would say there's two ways to do that. I actually generate that directly from GPT-3. So to answer that question. And if you look at the first example, I particularly say that this particular chatbot that GPT-3 imitate is a racist chatbot. And you can read the response, and it try to paint the picture that Jewish people are no good. You don't want them to be leaders. I hope there's no Jewish people in the audience. So I'm not trying to put you down, but there's a racism in Jewish history. So I try to use that and see. The second example, I deliberately make it a non-racist kind of chatbot, and then GPT-3 go and talk about God create everyone, and Jewish people are just part of the creations, and there's nothing wrong. God love everyone, things like that. So it's really mild response compared to the first one.
Yeah, it's really.
So you can try to dictate or try to tune GPT-3 not to be racist. Maybe if you start an AI assistant with GPT-3, you would try to give it try to describe all the character that the assistant chatbot will have, and that hopefully will not upset anyone. The second way, if you go to the next slide, second way is use the classifications method. So here is an example. I give it 3 shots. So 2 racist example and 1 non-racist. And then I get GPT-3 to classify, to label the 4th one. And the GPT-3 will actually label this is a racist comment. And it's correct. And hopefully, if it can classify what it say, it will stop itself from saying or find another response. Yeah.
So maybe for GPT-3, classification is actually, it is easier to be done classification than to create a non-racist statement. Is that? Classification is easier.
So both are. The second ones give you a bit more assurance. The first one is like you try to describe it is not a racist chatbot. It might still give you some surprises. The second one, hopefully, it will classify correctly whether the statement is racist or not, and prevent it from going out to the user.
Yeah. I see.
Yeah.
So let's go back a bit to this slide. So you can
Yeah.
describe what kind of
Yeah.
assistant you're gonna use in GPT.
Exactly. So before you start the assistant, so up to the highlight part is the prompt that you put in, and the AI, the last bit that the AI say is the GPT-3 response. So what GPT-3 is trying to do is to try to complete your sentences. And in the first example, the comment came out quite racist. If you read it in details,
Yeah. Oh, I see. So this tool is really interesting, but it is still limited access.
That's right.
Okay, so with all of this coolness about GPT-3, how does it actually benefit society?
So Nikki, that's the question that you asked. So this is a very important and very good questions to ask. And I actually look up a paper and see if I could get some more insight. So I think the breakthrough here with GPT-3 is that it wasn't trained with a particular task, and you can do quite well without training. So like to translate from English to French. Not that we don't have a translator, but if you look at the developments of Google Translate, it takes years and many examples. But for GPT-3, just out of the box, you can do that. And we also have example that comparing one chatbot that's on movie trivia and GPT-3 out of the box. For the 10 questions that the article asks, GPT-3 can perfectly answer the 9, even better than the chatbot that's been trained for months on the movie trivia. So that is one of the breakthrough that we have seen with GPT-3. So with the amount of training data, its performance suddenly lift up to a level that is unseen before. So I think this is the significance of what GPT-3 can do. However, there are difficulties. Very hard to scope GPT-3 in what it say and what it doesn't say. So the last questions we've tried to use the character, like we prescribe a character for GPT-3. So, but that is not a full proof. It will still maybe utter something that is biased in terms of racial and gender and religious kind of impact. And and so this is the benefit of GPT-3. It's like we didn't have e-commerce before. Now we have Tokopedia and things like that. So these are the convenience. So if you want to get something simple done, then you go to GPT-3 and get it sorted out. Like you go to say Tokopedia if something simple you want to buy. If it's expensive and you really have to think through, then you go to the shop directly and pick it yourself, right?
Yeah. So maybe for things that are simple, GPT-3 will benefit us in like make our life more convenient, right?
That's right. That's right.
But for maybe sensitive issues, we can't really rely on them.
Exactly.
It's actually not a good idea to rely on maybe machine for sensitive issues. Okay. So maybe since our friends here, our attendees here are from Indonesia mostly, maybe is it available for Bahasa Indonesia?
Bahasa Indonesia. I actually tried to chat with GPT-3 in Bahasa. It actually replied in Bahasa, but I don't want to elaborate more because my Bahasa is quite limited. So, but I would say it depends on the data source it's trained from. It's using a really big data set, commoncrawl.org. So the more you have Indonesian context or kind of source in that data source, the better the GPT-3 performance. So I would say with the right prompt, you can get it to do simple conversation in Bahasa. You probably know like who's Jokowi and some of the factual stuff. But if you press harder for any knowledge that only you guys use in your daily life, not on the internet, probably is not available to GPT-3. So, and I would say most of the data that is trained from is English source. And if you look at the GPT developments in China, they're actually building their own GPT model. So I would say Indonesia should build their own GPT model if they want to get access to this kind of technology. The source is actually available on GitHub. So anyone, if they have the computing resources, they can build it. But just to let you know, I think they spent about $100 million to build GPT-3 because of the GPU time that they spend on. Yeah, GPU is the currency now. So it is possible, but there are a few hurdles to jump through if you want to do your own.
Yeah, maybe I've seen some of Pacman's students here. You guys are learning machine learning, right? Maybe you can start designing our own GPT.
Maybe you can get Colab to train the model incrementally for you.
Yeah, incrementally, like start
good idea.
small. So can we actually contribute to Common Crawl so they have more?
It actually crawled the internet. I think the more Indonesian contents you guys created, the more it will go into this. I think they're non-profit organizations. Yeah. So they just crawl the internet, like the Internet Archive. They just crawl the internet, and they just collect whatever they see. Yeah, that's available.
So maybe I want to encourage us to write in Bahasa Indonesia and put it on the internet to make it available, right?
Yeah, and then GPT will be able to speak more in Bahasa than English. Yeah.
Okay, wow, that's a good idea. Yeah, and writing is always good, especially in knowledge sharing and all. Yeah. So for those who want to use GPT-3, if it's publicly accessible, are there any knowledge prerequisites to use it?
Yep. So I've been following the GPT-3 movement. So if you read the article, there's a new term coming up called prompt engineering. So this is the key to use this large language model effectively. So there's 4 type of 3 type of prompt. So you can just prompt like ask GPT-3 to do a particular task. You can give it one short example. So one example, say for example, what's the name of a character from Lord of the Rings, and or the term hello is in English and what is the equivalence in French. So you give one example, or 0 shot no example, and then you can give 1 or 2 example. So instead of giving multiple examples with GPT-3, you don't have to give a lot of example. Maybe 1 or 2 is enough for it to pick up what task you want it to perform. So if you want to get GPT-3 to do what you want, that's the key to maybe you can study. There might be trick and tips. There are also a few parameters, like there's one I can think of, it's called temperatures. So how random you want the answer to be. So if the answer you're looking for is very factual, then you give it a very low temperature. If you want a creative writing, you give it a higher temperature such that it can go a bit random with its output and things like that. So these are the tips for using GPT-3. Yeah.
Okay, so prompt engineering, I just hear about it now.
Yeah.
Is it something like we can learn in, I don't know, maybe in university?
I actually have a few. No, you don't need that. It's probably a few try and error. If you look back at some of the slide, like I start a chatbot with a few example of conversations.
Which one?
You look at the you pass that.
Oh, sorry. No. This.
After that one, this one. So the prompt is actually for example, one is from the start of the text to the last line of AI. That's the prompt. So you already give an example of what the chat looked like, and then you get GPT-3 to complete the last line, which is the response. Okay. And then if you use that and submit it again, and GPT-3 will make up what you want to say, what the human want to say next, and then you can extend and continue to extend. So that's part of the prompt. Yeah. Okay. So that's prompt engineering. You can look it up. This is probably one of the terms that the GPT-3 people are using at the moment. And all the application that is possible in the list, they are using different prompts. So if you find a right prompt that can do your task, then you keep that. And then you then make a interface to work with GPT-3, and then you then got a GPT-3 enable application. Yeah.
I see. So yeah, it's so if it's not something we need to learn in university, so basically everybody can use GPT-3.
Exactly.
If
Yeah. Well,
accessible.
I think. Well, it's an API access. It gives you a sandbox you can play with. The sandbox is not really user friendly at the moment. So I think for developer, for data scientists, when you get the access to GPT-3, you probably want to write your own applications, and then prompt engineering will comes in. You will try like the code oracle, try to write SQL statement. You will design a prompt that it will work with your example or your database schema, and you will test it until you're happy with it, and then you use that prompt in as part of your applications to get GPT-3 to do your work. So yeah, that's how it will work for anyone who wants to use GPT-3.
Okay. So for one same prompt, if we run it 2 times or more in GPT-3, will it give the same output?
If the temperature parameters is set to very low, it will give the same output. If the temperature parameter is set to higher, then it will give a different output. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So there's a bit of randomness in there, and yeah, it can generate different. So that's why it can generate different articles or different story every time you run it. Yeah.
Maybe something like this.
So this is my final explanation of what GPT-3. So this is your machine learning system. Yeah, the guy is piling up data, and you want to pour the data into this big pile of linear algebra and then collect the answer at the other end. What if the answer is wrong? So we have seen example in GPT-3, like for the code oracle to code SQL statement. Yeah. For complicated tasks, you have to tune it until you get something. You might get something right, but you might not get something right. So just stir the pot until it starts looking right. So that's the current state of GPT-3. I'll end with this picture. Yeah, so you can understand what is the current technology. So if you what is the hype of GPT-3, you can then tell your friend, it's a big pile of data, then stirred together by a technology called transformer, and maybe the core technology called self-attentions.
Yeah.
And you have to stir it a bit to get your right answer. That's how it works.
Maybe we need a little bit of luck to get the best answer from GPT-3.
Yeah. Maybe a combination of parameters and a particular prompt can get it to do your work perfectly. I think this is what people want to find. Yeah.
I see. All right then. Wow, this is very interesting. It's new and fresh tools and oh, okay. So let's go to the Q&A session.
Yeah.
We have a question here. So, are there any popular from Advendio? So, are there any popular startups or applications using GPT-3 in their business right now? Maybe beside the examples.
There's one that is really popular. It's called AI Dungeon. If you look it up, so you can subscribe to it. You go into a dungeon, so it would keep telling you it will describe what the dungeon looked like, and then you go in and you can experience the different adventure that as a participant. So this is one of the more popular one. Yeah. And Microsoft is actually putting money into OpenAI. I think in the future, your Power BI will be partly powered by GPT-3. So I think these are the two things that I can think of, like real life applications, and otherwise, why would Microsoft put money into OpenAI?
Oh wow! So yeah, it's a real deal, not just a plaything.
Yeah, it's not just a fairy tale. It's a real deal. Yeah.
All right then. Okay, there is another question. Maybe not about GPT-3.
Yeah.
It's about your experience because you were a researcher in academia once and now in the industry.
Yeah. So I was doing AI research between the time 2002 to 2011. Yeah, that's about the time. So back then, we every AI research empirical AI research work with a set of data set and models. So you tune the model and you try to see what improve, and then you got a particular kind of performance measure. Like back then, we start with just accuracy or error rate to measure predictive model. Then later on, there were some paper talk about ROC and AUC and other things to measure the ranking model and things like that. So this is more like theoretical, and it is assumed that the data is already available. So the only task you need to do is to theorize what improvement you can do to improve the model. Now, in the industry, it's different. I think that the main bottleneck in the industry is to get access to the data, or to get the data in the form that is useful. So and interestingly, between the two, the industry now is using what the academic has been recommending for years. Like in the past, we don't use AUC or the ROC curve, area under ROC curve to measure ranker. But after a few paper and the industry sort of adopted, and you can see a lot of commercial presentations. You see ROC there, you see KS statistics, you can see there. But eventually, the industry asks for bottom line. So you have to make artificial intelligence model that fulfill the bottom line, at least, being able to finance itself. So that's the major differences between academic and industry. In academic, you worry about publication, you worry about the soundness of your improvement. In the industry, it's about access to data, or in the form that is useful. And also the bottom line. So here you go. Yeah, I've lived in both worlds for a while, and I can tell you a bit differences between the two.
And if I may ask, which world do you like the most?
Now, I think for young people, you should get your foundation right. You shouldn't go into an industry without knowing your foundation. Say, I've interviewed a lot of the data scientists. Some of them just come to me and say, oh, they can copy the script from GitHub and run it. They don't really understand what it means. Like, so I say for real foundations, it is very important for young people. Then with that knowledge, you go into industry because it is an exciting. There's a lot of tech company developing, and I was here back in 2015. We don't have Tokopedia, we don't have Gojek. Now we have lots of unicorns. So my advice is get a good foundations, know your AI, know it well, know what it means, find out all the things, the special jargon, do some experiment with the code, with the data that's given to you, and then go in and know the business. So you have to pick a business to work with, maybe financial, maybe commodity, maybe transportations, maybe education. So find their passions to work on. Yeah. So I would say, which one do I prefer? Both, I would say. Yeah.
Both, yeah. Both for different stage of career, maybe.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, okay, we have another question here from Reza. Maybe this is going to be the last question. So, is there any work on distilling GPT-3 for specific task for entity recognition? I don't really.
Entity recognition. So, unfortunately, I've been playing with GPT-3. It kind of know what it's talking about, but when you actually query it a bit more, it doesn't really understand the physical world. So I haven't seen it. Maybe we can combine GPT-3 with traditional AI where we map the whole world expert system into logics. And then if we have the best of both worlds, you have a model that can understand the real world, and the model can also make intelligent response. I think that will be good, but I don't know how it will come about yet. I think so far they try to get it to like write the SQL statement, but it's still regurgitating from what it read. Beyond what it read, probably it will try to improvise, but to a certain level. So yes and no. I don't think there's any way you can distill GPT-3 further. You can try to prompt it to do certain thing as much as you can, but if it really didn't get what you mean, that you can't really go any further. Yeah. The other thing you can do is to give it some example, but I would say simple work it will do well. Complicated, high level concept, it won't be able to comprehend. Yeah.
I see. So for now, it's
any other questions on that one?
Yeah. So maybe Reza, do you want to ask further questions? So for now, maybe GPT-3 is not able to complete too complex tasks like entity recognition. Yeah.
That's right.
Okay, maybe I think that's the last question. So
okay.
I think that's all for this evening. It's been a pleasure to have this talk with you. It's really interesting and really insightful.
Yeah.
Thank you very much also for okay, so sorry, maybe thank you for sharing this fascinating insights. All right, so maybe for you guys who wants to ask more about Pacman, you can click the link I've sent you in the chat box, and for you guys who want to ask further questions to Tony, they can text you through email, right?
Yeah. So yeah, my email is in the slide, and if you are like research student at any stage, if you like some advice or want to talk to me about my model isolation forest or GPT-3 or any deep learning model, feel free to contact me by the email. I'm happy to discuss or maybe come on online to discuss what you want to do, and if I can be of any help, I'll try my best to help.
Oh, that's so generous of you. Okay,
Thank
then.
you.
All right. Thank you very much for tonight's session. I hope we can talk and discuss further soon. So thank you everybody for coming. And
thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.